The transmission came at 0300 hours, ship standard time. Admiral Ethan Cross was reviewing patrol routes in the Aegis Dawn's war room when the priority signal burned through every channel simultaneously: military, civilian, diplomatic, emergency. The Galactic Council seal rotated in holographic gold above the central table, spinning slowly, as if it had all the time in the universe. Because it believed it did. The message was short. The Galactic Council, under the authority of High Counselor Kale Veyron, hereby commanded all human military vessels, defense platforms, orbital weapons arrays, and armed colonial installations to stand down and submit to immediate decommissioning. Humanity was to surrender its war fleet, every ship, every gun, every torpedo, within 30 standard days. Non-compliance would be interpreted as an act of aggression against the Council. Admiral Ethan Cross read it 3 times. Then he poured himself a cup of coffee, sat down, and began to think. High Counselor Kale Veyron had not always been a man of cruelty. He had once been a diplomat, a reasonable creature from a reasonable species, the Velthara, whose homeworld orbited a calm yellow star and whose civilization had never known planetary war. They had joined the Galactic Council 600 years ago and risen smoothly, predictably, through the bureaucratic ranks, because smooth and predictable were what the Council rewarded. The Council had been governing the galaxy's civilized species for over 2 millennia. In that time, it had absorbed 47 distinct civilizations. None had ever defied a direct order and survived the consequences. Humanity was the 48th. And humanity was the problem. In the 32 years since first contact, humans had done nothing the Council's models predicted. They were supposed to be primitive, easily awed, grateful for inclusion. Instead, they had arrived at diplomatic summits with lawyers. They had read every treaty before signing. They had asked uncomfortable questions about the fine print in the membership accords, questions that, when answered honestly, revealed that membership in the Galactic Council meant something very close to vassal status. Humans had politely declined that interpretation. Then they had built ships. Not slowly. Not cautiously. At a speed that made the Council's intelligence analysts rewrite their projection models 3 times. Within a decade, humanity operated the 5th largest military fleet in the known galaxy. Within 2, the 2nd largest. And their ships were strange, asymmetric, redundant, over-engineered by Counselor standards. Species that had achieved space travel through elegant efficiency could not understand why a human warship needed 17 independent power cores when 2 would suffice. They did not understand that humans built things to survive being broken. Kale Veyron had studied the human file for months before drafting the disarmament order. He was not a fool. He understood that the directive would cause friction. But he had run the numbers with his advisors, and the numbers were clear. Humanity's fleet, while formidable, could not match the combined Council armada. If it came to war, humans would lose. The order would make them submit. Submission would be the natural conclusion. He had not considered a third option. Admiral Ethan Cross called his first briefing 6 hours after the transmission. His senior staff gathered in the war room, officers from Earth, from Mars, from the colony worlds of New Carthage and the Reach and a dozen other human settlements scattered across 3 sectors of space. They were tired people. People who had spent careers preparing for a threat they hoped would never arrive. The threat had arrived in the form of a diplomatic message. "They want our guns," said Cross, setting down his coffee cup. "All of them. Every ship decommissioned. Every platform dismantled. 30 days. Silence. Commander Yasha Petrov, his tactical officer, spoke first. "Our response options?" 3, said Cross. "We comply. We refuse and fight. Or we make them understand that neither of those is actually the choice they're offering us." He pulled up a star map. 31 human systems. Colony populations numbering in the billions. Supply lanes threading between them like veins. He had spent 2 decades learning that map the way a surgeon learns the human body, where it was strong, where it was fragile, and where, if you applied pressure incorrectly, the whole system could bleed out. The Council thinks this is about ships, he said. It isn't. It's about whether they've correctly calculated the cost of crossing us. He began to give orders. The response humanity sent to High Counselor Kale Veyron was not defiance. It was a presentation. Admiral Ethan Cross delivered it personally, via secure channel, addressed directly to the High Counselor's office. It was 47 pages long, with appendices. It was polite. It was thorough. And it was devastating. The first section documented every human system the Council's trade networks depended upon. Rare earth processing plants on New Carthage that supplied 60% of the Council's quantum drive components. Medical synthesis facilities on the Reach whose output served 9 Council species. Agricultural platforms in the Helion Belt whose food exports sustained 2 member civilizations still rebuilding from famines of the previous century. The second section detailed what happened to those supply chains if human ships, the ones the Council wanted decommissioned, were no longer protecting them from piracy, from the fracture raiders, from the half-dozen non-Council hostile factions that prowled the outer sectors. The third section was a legal brief, prepared by 70 human attorneys, demonstrating that the disarmament order violated no fewer than 14 clauses of the original membership accord. That the order itself, if enforced militarily, would constitute the first act of aggression legally committed by the Council, not humanity. The fourth section was a single page. It was a list of what humanity would do if the order was enforced. Not attack. Not retaliate in kind. Withdraw. Every human ship recalled to home systems. Every supply contract terminated. Every trade agreement suspended pending legal review. Every diplomatic liaison returned to Earth. The Council would not get humanity's guns. It would get humanity's absence. And the note at the bottom of that final page, in Admiral Ethan Cross's own handwriting, because humans still did that, still put ink on paper when they wanted something to carry weight, read: "You have not calculated what this costs you." "We have. Review the attached economic projections and contact us when you are ready to renegotiate membership terms as equals. Admiral Ethan Cross, Commander, Human Combined Fleet." High Counselor Kale Veyron read the document in his chambers on the Council station, alone, with no advisors present. He read it once quickly. Then again, slowly. Then he called for his chief economic analyst and asked her to verify the projections in the appendices. She came back 4 hours later looking like she had not slept. "They're accurate," she said. "Conservative, actually. The real impact would be worse." Kale Veyron sat very still. He had ruled the Council for 19 years. In that time, he had seen species bluster and threaten and, in 2 cases, actually fire weapons. He had always known how to respond to those things. Force was a language he understood. But humanity had not threatened force. It had threatened indifference. It had looked at the Galactic Council, 2,000 years old, 47-member species, the governing body of the civilized galaxy, and said, "We can survive without you. Can you survive without us?" And the terrible answer, laid out in 47 pages of careful documentation, was, "Not easily." The renegotiation took 8 months. It was contentious. There were 3 walkouts, all by Council delegations, not the humans. There was one session where a Velthara diplomat called Admiral Cross a barbarian, and Cross had replied that barbarians didn't file amicus briefs, then returned to reviewing the trade subsection. The final accord recognized human military sovereignty in human space. It established equal representation for humanity on the Council's governing committee. It eliminated the vassal clauses that had been buried in the original membership agreement, the ones humanity's lawyers had found in year 2 and flagged but never publicly named until now. It was, by every measure, a victory. Not a military victory. There had been no battle. Not a single shot fired, not a single life lost. Just a 47-page document and the credible, thoroughly documented willingness of 8 billion humans to walk away from a table that didn't treat them as equals. In the aftermath, a Velthora journalist asked Admiral Ethan Cross what he had been thinking when he drafted the response. Cross considered the question. "I was thinking," he said, "that the Council made the same mistake everyone makes. They looked at our weapons and thought that was the threat." He paused. "The weapons are just the hardware. The threat is us. The way we think. The way we prepare. The way we refuse to accept the terms of a problem someone else wrote." He picked up his coffee cup, always coffee, always in hand. "We didn't win because we're stronger," he said. "We won because we did the math first." High Counselor Kale Veyron, in his chambers 12 light-years away, was at that moment reading the final ratified accord. He had the distinct, uncomfortable sense that humanity had been doing the math since the moment they received that first transmission. And that they had known, before he did, exactly how this would end.